Uh, Good morning, friends. In today's class, we will study about commercial banks in India. How commercial banks are working in India. We are basically, concerned with the characteristics of commercial banks in India. First of all, we'll see the objectives of bank nationalization, and then we will see the limitations or problems of nationalized banks in India. Then we will see the uh, private banks, how the private banks evolved and developed in India. We will study about that, and then we will see the advantages and disadvantages of private sector banks. In this way, our slides we will talk about commercial banks in India. Okay. Commercial banks in any country generally works on the commercial principles. uh, you know uh, once we categorize commercial banks into public sector banks and private sector banks, it's working, you know does not follow the standard practices of commercial banking in sometimes. So we should know what are the objectives of bank nationalization, why we nationalized our commercial banks in India, and what were the objectives of it. And not only this, due to nationalization later on, what problems, what limitations have come into the working of commercial banks in India, nationalized commercial banks in India, so that will give us a broad picture in which we can understand the working of commercial banks in India. Now, in this slide, uh, let us understand the objectives of bank nationalization. Once you understand the objectives of bank nationalization, you will understand why we nationalized our commercial banks. What were the objectives behind the bank nationalization in India? So you will understand the why we nationalized our banks, and what exactly was the reason behind bank nationalization, why commercial banks were uh, uh, nationalized. Okay. So, first objective of bank nationalization is to establish socialistic pattern of society. Okay. In our constitution, we believed in socialistic pattern of society. Socialistic pattern of society means we will have more equality, justice, and less inequalities of income. That kind of structure, that kind of economy we wanted, and accordingly we build up our constitution. The Constitution of India proposes socialistic pattern of society. So this kind of pattern of society, socialistic pattern of society, for that purpose, the commercial banks were not working according to this objective, because the commercial banks, all the commercial banks were in private hands. Okay. Before independence, even central bank, the RBI, was also in private hands. So all the banking system was working for working in private hands and with private capital, so was very narrow in its vision. So because of its narrow vision, and it was catering to the needs of very few people. Okay. Few people and one class of people, so that was not according to our constitutional needs. So that is why our government decided to nationalize our banks to fulfill this constitutional objectives, that is to establish socialistic pattern of society. Okay, so this is one of the objective, very important objective. Second objective, you can see that to cater to the credit needs of weaker sections of society. When commercial banks were working in private hands and they were privatized banks, that time they were catering to the needs of very few people. Okay, they were not catering to the needs of credit needs of weaker sections of society. So for this purpose, banks many banks were nationalized to fulfill this function, that is to cater to the credit needs of weaker sections of society. The third objective you can understand is to reduce inequalities of income and wealth. After independence, the founding fathers of our nation realized that we have a lot of inequalities of income and wealth, and not only this, we have many kinds of equities in terms of income, wealth, regional inequities, class inequities, and in this way a lot of inequalities between people, between states, between different regions. So to reduce these all kinds of inequalities, we wanted our banking system to work, because banking system is very important for growth and development of any class. So that is why to reduce inequalities of income and wealth, the bank nationalized was proposed and it was done. The fourth objective was to reduce regional inequalities in terms of availability of banking facilities. When private banks were, commercial banks were in private sector, working in private sector, that time they were located in particular regions. Okay, mainly big cities they were located, and in many states also their presence was very few, was very weak and very sleek, very less. So this regional inequalities, there was a lot of regional inequalities. So to cater, or to reduce this regional inequalities, and to increase the reach of banking facilities to all states or regions, to all class, we needed a bank nationalization. The next objective is to promote financial inclusion. What is this financial inclusion? Financial inclusion means uh, all the class of people, all the weaker sections of society, different class of people, and different regions, any region should have financial facilities. All the class of people, all the regions of people in India should be included financially. They should get the banking facilities. Everyone should have accounts in banks. That was not done through private banking at that point of time. At that point of time, very few were included financially. So to promote financial inclusion at that point of time, we we have undertaken bank nationalization. That is very important. Now the last objective according to me is to promote growth of priority sectors. uh, India has categorized many sectors, very important sectors for the economy, as priority sectors, like agriculture sector, the small scale industries, these kinds of industries which is providing more and more employment and income to majority of people in India. So these kind of all these sectors are priority sectors, and their growth was not done. The proper credit facilities were not provided to these sectors when it was working in private hands, because these are very crucial sectors. But they are the people who are working in these sectors are generally underprivileged class, or weaker sections of society, poor sections of society, poor or lower middle class. So these people will generally will not have uh, you know mm, uh, collateral facility with them. They will not have the assets to get the loans. So so because of this lack of assets, these people will not get the credit facilities, and that is the very much problem of private banking in India, that point of time, private commercial banks. So because of this, to promote growth of priority sectors, we needed to nationalize our commercial banks. So in this way, these are the very important socio-economic objectives of a developing country, which has to develop its state from underdeveloped to developed nation. So because of this, we needed bank nationalization in India. So in this slide, you will see what is the what are the limitations or problems of nationalized banks. Due to some very important objectives, we nationalize our banks. India In India, the banks, commercial banks were nationalized. But due to bank nationalization and banks working in government sector, public sector, many limitations has come into picture. So now we will talk about the limitations or problems of nationalized banks. So you will understand that though the objectives of bank nationalization was very important, no doubt, they were very important. But due to government setup and public sector limitations, these limitations have come into nationalized banks also. So now we will see this nationalization, and in this context only we will see why the sector banks are important. The development of private sector banks in India later on became very important. So let's see the limitations or problems of nationalized banks in India. First limitation of nationalized banks in India is losses in rural branches. What does it mean? It means that in rural branches, these nationalized banks are doing a lot of losses, because there is a unviability in terms of rural branches. In rural areas, commercial banks does not get enough business, and without business, without profit, if they are working in rural areas, so they incur a lot of losses, and these losses have become a burden on nationalized banks. So this is first limitation of bank nationalization. There are a lot of losses in rural branches. Second limitation is large overdues. These banks are having a large overdues, and they are doing a lot of loss, because these banks in these banks, the credit facilities are provided through their contacts, and through a lot of corruption is happening in these banks. So there is a nexus between bank managers, political politicians, and corporates. This nexus of corruption, due to that many loans are given to unviable you know units, commercial units, and unviable industries. And many a times you know these loans are given to benami companies, and a lot of corruption is done. Due to that, there are large overdues with this nationalized banks. Okay, so this corruption and political nexus uh, has created large overdues in these banks, and that has become a big problem for nationalized banks in India. Because of this only, this second limitation only, the third limitation arises, that is non-performing assets. Nationalized banks in India are having a very large non-performing assets. When for a period of time, loan overdues does not come to banks. Okay, so then finally it becomes non-performing assets. When loans dues are not coming, has not come for a considerable period of time, it becomes non-performing asset. These non-performing assets, percentage of non-performing assets are increasing for nationalized banks, and then it becomes a very big problem for their you know their accounts, or you can say that uh, their uh, their account books, and it becomes a very big problem for uh, nationalized banks. So non-performing assets is a big problem for nationalized banks. Then comes the advance to priority sector. Government has decided one particular percentage of advance to priority sector. Yeah, this is a good for development of priority sector, but how it becomes problem or limitation for banking, because banks work on commercial principles, and advance to priority sector. Priority sector, what comes into priority sector? Agriculture sector comes, small scale industries comes, and weaker sections of society. And these particular priority sectors generally don't have collateral, and that is why many a times loans does not come back, and it becomes NPA. So once see this, when in these sectors, when many loans are becoming non-performing assets and loss making, so definitely this becomes limitation for nationalized banks. So advance to priority sector has also become problem of nationalized banks. Then the next point is competition from non-banking financial institution. Banking industries, banking institutions will have a lot of competition from non-banking financial institutions. There are so many, non-banking financial institutions in India, which are also, financing industrial sector, agriculture sector, many kinds of sectors. So there is a considerable amount of competition from non-banking financial institution to, nationalized bank, and it has become one of the problem for nationalized bank. Competition from private and foreign banks. This is one of the very important feature, uh, very important problems of nationalized banks recently. So this is generally, it should not be the problem, but how it becomes problem, because nationalized banks in India has themselves make themselves inefficient, and a lot of and it is working in government sector, so it is not becoming that much efficient. Once they are not efficient, they cannot compete with foreign banks or private banks. So this is not the actual, actual limitation is not the competition from foreign banks or private banks or non-banking financial institutions. The actual problem is the inefficiencies of nationalized banks due to government setup, due to public sector setup. So this is the main problem. But these, because of their inefficiencies, these all problems comes, and they become the limitations of nationalized banks. Then gap between promise and performance. When banks were nationalized, it was promised that it will have a lot of growth of banking facilities, and it will have a lot of growth of credit facilities. That was promised, but if you see the performance is not up to the mark. So there is a gap between promise and performance. That is one of the problem of nationalized banks in India. Again comes the problem of bureaucratization. Once, and political pressures, bureaucratization, political pressures, corruption, these all are the problems of nationalized banks, because nationalized banks are working in government setup, and they are public sector undertakings, and public sector banks. PSB, it has to deal with the bureaucrats, it has to deal with the political pressures, it has to deal with the corruption of these classes. So in commercial entities like banks, these kind of things will become definite problems for them. So that is the very important reason, problems of nationalized banks in India. Now in this slide, let us talk about evolution of private sector banks in India. I have, in this slide, I have noted down very important points about private sector banks in India. You can understand that before bank nationalization and before the nationalization of even SBI and RBI, all the banks in India were working in private sector. So gradually we nationalize many banks. First we nationalize our central bank, then we nationalize the SBI, then we nationalize 14 large banks, and then 6 large banks again in 1980. Okay, so up to from independence, at the time of independence, the eve of independence, and up to the time of 1980, we did a lot of nationalization in India, bank nationalization. And these banks, many large banks were nationalized, and they became public sector banks, PSBs. Now, we in the last slide we have seen the many limitations and problems of nationalized banks in India, and that in that context we can see the importance of private sector banks in India. In that context only we can understand the importance of private sector banks in India. So, private sector banks in India are very much needed. Up to that time, the the 90s, when 1991 the economic reforms were introduced in India. At that point of time, after that, the at that point of time we established Narsimhan Committee for financial sector reforms, and this committee has suggested many reforms for banking sector in India. So in that context, many private sector banks were given licenses, and they evolved. You can understand. Now, uh, one by one we will see. In this type of banks, the majority of share capital is held by private individuals and corporate. Okay, not all private sector banks were nationalized in 1969 and 1980. The private sector banks which were not nationalized at that point of time are collectively known as the old private sector banks, and include banks such as the Jammu and Kashmir Bank Limited, the Lord Krishna uh, Bank, and many of such banks which were not nationalized have become are generally called as old private sector banks. Entry of private sector banks was, however, prohibited during the post nationalization period. Okay, many entry of private sector banks was generally prohibited. In July 1993, as part of banking sector reform process, and as a measure to induce competition in the banking sector, the RBI permitted the private sector to enter into banking system. This resulted in the creation of a new set of private sector banks, which are collectively known as the new private sector banks, such as HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, IndusInd Bank, and many. After that, many bank entities were given banking license, like Kotak Mahindra Bank, and many such banks, and they are working really efficiently nowadays. You can see their performance. At present, after mergers and acquisition, there are around 12 public sector banks, 22 Indian private sector banks, and 44 foreign banks working in India presently. Okay, so through this slide you can understand that there were many private sector banks which was not nationalized. They became old private sector banks, and recently after 1993, and according to the recommendations of Narsimham Committee reform, financial reform committee, many new private sector banks has also come into picture, and they are really doing very well. So We can see I have given you the number of private sector banks in India. I have given you the number of public sector banks in India and foreign banks. This number changes, so don't worry about this number, but you can write at present around. You are writing the approximate number. So this is the approximate number. Now it may change once government decide to privatize more or nationalize banks, so this number also will change, and government also give entry to many other foreign banks and private banks in India, so this number will change gradually. Okay, but private sector banks are very important nowadays for the growth of banking facilities, the growth of banking sector in India. So evolution of private sector banks in India after 1993 has been very robust. Okay. Students, in this slide we will see the advantages and disadvantages of private sector banks in India. As you know, if you have gone to private sector banks for some work, or you have gone to public sector banks for some work, so you can see many differences. You can conceive the the notion. You can perceive the things that there are so many advantages of private sector banks. There are disadvantages also, so we will see one by one. First and foremost advantage of private sector bank in India is it offers quick service to the customers. It offers quick and better service to its customers. Remember this thing. Then this thing, you can go to banks and you can realize. Then these banks also offer customized services according to the customer's financial needs, because these banks are generally works on profit motive, and to create the brand, to create the well established institution. They see customers needs, and according to customers needs they offer customized service to their customers. That is very important. Our public sector banks are not up to the mark in this regard. Okay. So the third one is private sector banks has a have a streamlined management system. Okay. Streamline management system means it is a very important part. They have a proper management system, and their management system is according to the changing time. While public sector banks management system is not that much robust and not that much dynamic. Okay, so that is very important thing. Another part is uh, quick financial decision making is possible in private sector banks. This is very important. This is the time where in banking system, in financial system, if you want to compete in banking system, if you want to compete, your financial decision making should be very quick, while it is very very pathetic in case of government sector. ठीक है, तो ये सब याद रखिएगा कि हमारे प्राइवेट सेक्टर जो है उसकी जो बैंक्स हैं वो क्या फ़ायदे हैं, उनके उनके फ़ायदे हैं कस्टमर्स को क्विक एंड अच्छी सर्विस प्रोवाइड करती है। वो कस्टमर को कस्टमर के हिसाब से जो कस्टमाइज सर्विसेज जो है फाइनेंशियल नीड्स के लिए वो प्रोवाइड करती है। उनका मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम जो है वो टाइम के हिसाब से स्ट्रीमलाइन होता है। उनका जो फाइनेंशियल डिसीजन मेकिंग जो है वो भी बहुत फास्ट होता है, डायनेमिक होता है। तो दीज आर द एडवांटेजेस फॉर प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स इन इंडिया। They are very important. Now the second one is private sector banks. These are the disadvantages, because once you have advantages, you should also know what are the disadvantages. Okay, because our country is talking about privatization everywhere. So आपको ये भी पता होना चाहिए कि प्राइवेटाइजेशन हम कर देंगे तो उसके डिसएडवांटेज क्या है, क्या प्रॉब्लम्स होंगी। तो फर्स्ट, some major disadvantages I have focused here. Private sector banks charge extra on every financial service. याद रखिए कि जो गवर्नमेंट बैंक्स होते हैं उनके चार्जेस कम होते हैं बहुत, जबकि प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स के चार्जेस बहुत ज़्यादा होते हैं। बहुत सारी जो सर्विसेज के थोड़े 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 करके उनके जो चार्जेस जो होते हैं, काफ़ी चार्जेस होते हैं। बहुत सारी सर्विसेज के होते हैं जो गवर्नमेंट बैंक्स में फ्री सर्विसेज होती है, वो भी चार्जेबल होती है प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स में, और उनके चार्जेस ज़्यादा होते हैं, याद रखिए। और सेकंड वन इज दिस बैंक्स ओनली ऑपरेट इन सिटीज एंड आउट ऑफ रीच ऑफ द रूरल पॉपुलेशन। हमारे देश में majority people stay in rural areas, and private sector banks don't go into rural areas. They don't fulfill the needs of rural population, and this is very big limitation, याद रखिएगा। क्योंकि हमें फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन हमारा एक गोल है, क्योंकि हम ओनली उन लोगों पे ध्यान नहीं देते हैं जो शहरों में रहते हैं, हम उन लोगों पे भी ध्यान देते हैं, गवर्नमेंट उन लोगों पे भी ध्यान देती है जो गांव में रहते हैं। तो प्राइवेटाइजेशन कर दिया गया सभी बैंकों का, तो जो ये रूरल ब्रांचेस हैं उनको सबको बंद हो सकती हैं, और जो रूरल पॉपुलेशन को जो सर्विसेज मिल रही हैं वो कैसे मिलेंगी फिर। तो दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, दैट दिस इज वेरी बिग डिसएडवांटेज ऑफ प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स, एंड दे हैव टू सी इनटू दिस। और ऐसा नहीं है कि उनको प्रॉफिट नहीं हो सकता, रूरल पॉपुलेशन जो है उसमें से बहुत प्रॉफिट हो सकता है, लेकिन क्या होता है कि इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा होता है, लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट की जरूर होती है। तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स जो होती है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर जो होते हैं वो जनरली शॉर्ट टर्म प्रॉफिट में बिलीव करते हैं, ठीक है। तो इसके ये प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है। स्टिल वी नीड टू इम्प्रूव द एफिशिएंसी, इसीलिए हम प्राइवेटाइजेशन की बात करते हैं। स्टिल देयर इज अ डिसएडवांटेज, ये हमारे एक डिसएडवांटेज है। Then private sector banks offer no job security to employees. This is also a very important point, that in private sector you have least or very minimum job security, and this is very important in terms of social security. Social security provide करना बहुत जरूरी है लोगों को, और जो social security नहीं होगी और बैंक्स के एम्प्लॉयज को बैंक जॉब सिक्योरिटी नहीं होगी, तो देन एफिशिएंसी जो है वो भी इफेक्ट होती है, याद रखिएगा। ऐसा भी बोला जाता है कि आप अनसर्टेनिटी में रहते हो तो इतनी एफिशिएंसी नहीं दे पाते, ठीक है। सम रिसर्च सजेस्ट दैट, सो जॉब सिक्योरिटी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स आर इन disadvantage. Last one is in Indian, according to me, in Indian private sector banks, moreover, there is a mandatory stake by foreign investors, sorry, majority stake by foreign investors, a cause of real concern. This is very important limitation of private sector banks in India. You should understand that this is the very important point, because हमारे जो प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स है उसमें मेजोरिटी जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है वो कहाँ का है, फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स का है। they are seem they seem to be domestic banks, but domestic private banks, but still they are owned by the foreign investors, and this is the real cause of concern। जो सब प्राइवेटाइज कर दिया जाए, जितनी भी गवर्नमेंट बैंक है उनको भी आप प्राइवेटाइज कर दोगे, और उसमें मेजोरिटी स्टेक जो है वो फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स का होगा, देन दैट विल बिकम अ रियल कॉज ऑफ कंसर्न, याद रखिएगा। फ्यूचर में जो इस तरीके का होता है तो हमारी जो फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम है उसके लिए बहुत बड़ा ये चैलेंज होगा, क्योंकि फॉरेन स्टेक होता है तो फॉरेन स्टेक फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स बिलीव इन प्रॉफिट। वंस प्रॉफिट इज नॉट देयर, they will leave the market. So what happens then? It becomes very difficult. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of private sector banks in India. We should see that we should पॉजिटिव जो पार्ट्स हैं उनको बढ़ाना चाहिए, एडवांटेजेस हैं उनको बढ़ाना चाहिए, और जो डिसएडवांटेजेस हैं उनको दूर करना चाहिए, और प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स को ज़्यादा मजबूत करना चाहिए, ज़्यादा उसमें डोमेस्टिक इन्वेस्टमेंट आए, ज़्यादा उनकी सर्विसेज अच्छी हों, ज़्यादा वो जो ये जो चार्जेस कर रहे हैं वो चार्जेस कम करें, और इसी तरीके से हमारी जो पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स हैं वो भी इनमें से कुछ सीखे और वो भी कॉम्पिटिटिव हो। तो in this way it is very very important to study private sector banks in India. Okay, these all things you can write in your exam. Okay, thank you so much all of you.